Welcome to the Challenge Chronicles. I'm Devin Jordan. I'm with Trace Armstrong and Rob McIntyre. We're here to cover Spies, Lies, and Allies, episode 13. If you'd like to become a patron and listen to some of our bonus content, you can go to patreon.com/the Challenge Chronicles and subscribe for $4 a month. We just did our All-Stars 2 draft. We plan to do all of our All-Stars 2 coverage on Patreon for the most part, or that's typically going to be the bonus episode every week, unless we change things up. So if you want to hear us talk about All-Stars 2 or All-Stars 3 in that general, which seems to be getting some steam, we did a episode to go over the speculated cast a few weeks ago. You can listen to that as well. What did we think of episode 13 for Spies, Lies, and Allies?
I thought it was very good. It seems like
Oh my God, Rob.
No? All right. Well, it seems I guess, again, I'm the contrarian here. I thought that the Cory storyline was pretty intriguing. I thought Amanda feuding with the Team Ruby, I was entertained by that. So I liked it, but I guess not.
I enjoyed the episode, but I feel like these people made bad decisions. That's really what
for
it boils
sure.
down to. That's the thing is like watching it from like if I was just watching it to be entertained, I would have been just fine with this episode because I was entertained. But as someone who looks at this from also an analytical standpoint for this podcast, we were in the group chat with Pat Mayo last night and we were talking about it. And what it boils down to is these people's personal relationships outside of the game affect so many of their decisions that are to their detriment to win.
Who do you think made a bad decision?
I think there were a couple. I mean, again, not throwing in CT. I still think that's a terrible decision every time they do it. I think Logan joining the Saphire team instead of Emerald at the end, I thought that was bad. I don't see why he shouldn't have joined Emerald.
I'm with you. That's what I would have done. That's what I mean, shoot. Or maybe Logan's smart enough to realize that team is a disaster waiting to happen in the final. I don't know.
The thing is, for one, that means they're running teams in the final. There's still so much time to get there. And for me, the biggest thing is just if he's sitting next to CT, if Nelson or Kyle's going in next week, who do you think they're picking to go in?
Oh, they're picking Logan regardless
of
he's on Emerald.
Yep. So who do we think the MVP of the episode was? Because I think that there are a couple people.
Good question.
You could make an argument, I think, for 3 or 4 people, depending on how you watch the show, to be quite honest. If you're in it for the funnies and the laughs, CT had some really funny lines and facial expressions and just overall goofiness that were great. If you like, people who cause a problem, Amanda was a pretty good case for MVP. And then I could also say that you could throw out, even though his screen time was lower, you could say Logan.
I think
Josh.
Cory to me was the most entertaining character in the episode.
I think if we're talking about from like an overall like game impact, right? I think it's Josh. I don't know how much of I think it's Josh, and I think you could arguably say Casey too, even though she didn't get the visibility. But they seem like they are in complete control of what's going on right now.
What's interesting is we don't get the aftermath with the votes from everybody anymore. For whatever reason, the aftermaths are not showing how the Emerald team is voting.
It's unfortunate.
So I would have been very curious to see how many people on their team and who did vote for Josh or vote for Logan versus Cory.
I think it's one of those things where there may have been some people that wanted to vote for Cory, but even though that they wanted to vote for Cory, they voted for, there are some people that wanted to vote for Logan. And even though they wanted vote for Logan, they didn't vote for Logan because they knew they didn't have enough votes to make it go through, right? So they just wanted to kind of like vote as a united front, just because it didn't make sense to fracture the team.
Yeah.
What do we think was like? What was Josh's argument in not voting in Logan?
I think he probably made some guarantee to them that he wouldn't infiltrate Emerald, right? I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is that
if he wasn't going to infiltrate, wouldn't they want to put him in?
I think that I know, right? That's like, that was the part that was idiotic, right?
That was also very dumb.
Take that back. That doesn't make any sense. I didn't get that when people were talking about that. I think part of it was, I think potentially they may have perceived Cory as the weakest player. And so they wanted to put someone.
Yes,
I don't think so at all.
Hold on. And so by putting someone in the weakest player, at least that way, the person that you're putting in has a decent chance to go home, and any blowback coming onto you is less likely to happen.
I don't think that's the case at all, because we heard multiple times about them talking about how he'd been to multiple finals, was this big threat. That was what they were talking about with him.
Yeah, but at this point, who isn't a threat out of these people?
I mean, I was very impressed by Logan in the elimination. I wouldn't have pegged him to win that, and I think.
I mean, Logan's quite a bit bigger than him.
Yeah. I didn't realize that, just in terms of like height. Like, he's just a lot taller than him.
Seems like he had like a head on him, right?
Yeah. Cory's obviously, he's very big. He's in great shape, but he's not tall. And he had been really good in eliminations leading up to this. I think he had won like his last 5 or something. Like, he had been on a pretty good rhythm here. But I guess it just didn't carry over.
Something that was interesting with the elimination is the way that it was structured compared to the prior times that they had done this. So in the first All-Stars with Mark Long and Laterian, and then with Jordan and Josh, which Josh alluded to during the elimination.
Yeah, I was like, he's definitely got PTSD from last time with this.
With the limitation that they put on it this time, and I don't think I necessarily liked it, was that they made it so that you had to keep both of your hands behind a certain point on the rope, right?
Oh,
So
I
it's
didn't even
not
really
like-
notice that.
Yeah, there was a line because of the fire. They probably had like
Fair.
kerosene or something.
Gotta
and
have
then
fire.
Yeah. In Discord, I couldn't help but be like, fire.
It was definitely different because if you go back and watch the Jordan and Josh one, the rope goes under a certain point, and there's a lot more pull to it. So the way that Jordan actually wins that elimination for the most part is he like faints like he's about to fall off, and then Josh like gives a real heave ho, and then Jordan just lets go of the rope, and then Josh's momentum carries him off the platform.
Yeah.
Logan actually mimics that strategy in this elimination, which I thought was interesting.
I mean, I think that was the key to all of this, right? We saw Logan show some type of strategy. He shows some type of consciousness over being able to see Cory's weakness or see Cory's tell and be able to act accordingly whenever the opportunity presented itself. And at the same time, we don't know if Cory had a similar strategy, right? And they just didn't show it because he didn't win. But at least we saw Logan have enough awareness to be able to tell us what he was doing. So to go back to, let's go back to Emerald's decision to put in Cory. So who do you think, or I guess what do you think the reason that they put Cory in was?
He's the person with the least amount of alliance members left.
That's probably what it is, to be more than anything.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he doesn't have a relationship with them as much compared to Logan, who and I think the editors did a good job of showing us that, right? They showed us, and this is the first time we had seen this. We had heard this from other people throughout the course of the season, but Josh is able to communicate on a level with Logan that no one else is. And apparently that's a extremely tight bond between the two of them.
Yep. 100%. And the other thing about it too is it's just like Cory, because we know Cory's coming back next season. They're not going to cast Cory at this point. Like, this is his job.
He might just say no.
No, he's
Why don't you think he's coming back?
He's coming back next time.
On Aftermath, he was very, very forthright about not coming back next season.
Why?
Yeah, okay.
He wants to spend time with his kids. He doesn't want to come back.
No.
I don't believe
I
that.
don't know.
I mean,
we'll see. Look, next season could run a year and a half from now. We have no clue. So
that's the thing, is that I don't
think
think we're gonna get a new season of the challenge until like March, probably. And they're not gonna start filming till March. And so like he's gonna have 6 months at home. Like he's gonna need some scratch by that point.
Because we're getting 2 seasons of All-Stars back to back in a row before they even record another regular show.
Yeah. Well, we know he was called for All-Stars apparently. That did happen. That's what he said.
They called that they wanted him on, or
they called. Well, it's hard to say to what degree they wanted him on, but from what we know, he was wanted.
And
on
let's
also
also be clear that a lot of these cast members don't pay attention to like what show they're actually being called for. He could have been called for that other spinoff show where it's like Battle of the Reality Challenge Stars, the champs versus other
they probably don't even like forthright tell them what they're being called for either too.
Probably not. They're like, hey, we're doing this show All Stars.
Okay. We're doing this show. It's from this to this. This is what you'll be doing. And then that's about it.
So who knows? He could have been called for All Stars 3. He could have been called for the spinoff show that's been delayed till January or February from what I've heard. So anyway, I mean, Cory's biggest issue is he does not spend enough time talking to some of these people beyond Nelson. you know, because it's fairly obvious the reason that he was trying to align himself with some of the rookies is because he just doesn't really have a relationship with any of the vets aside from Nelson. And then Cory's other problem is, and it's something we've talked about numerous times, Cory, when he's in elimination, he beats who he should beat, but he's yet to have like an impressive elimination win against somebody.
You don't think him beating Darrell was impressive?
I don't know. That one was kind of like set up for him, right? Like, I mean, it was like one of those ones.
Yeah.
Well, it pretty much came down to strictly speed, right? They made the ropes a little bit longer, so
Mhm.
speed was more of a factor. Strength didn't come into play at all
At
in that elimination, and you just beat him down the lane.
Yep.
I would agree, because I don't know. Wouldn't you say that this is one that he should beat though? This
I thought he should have won this.
I
Yeah,
thought he
yeah.
should have won too, but this is now the, you know, again, I mean, and to me, Logan's, you know, hamstring is still hurting. I don't know how much it's healed at this point. They didn't mention it once this episode. Maybe he's fine now. But like, you're going up against a guy who just pulled his hamstring in a balance elimination and you lost. Put
Yeah.
that, think about that.
I just think he had a rough day. Like, we'll see how much this means going, because I just thought he'd been very capable. At this season, it seemed like he wasn't as in it as much, right? Compared to his last two.
I didn't get that at all.
No.
Yeah, I just
No,
don't think he
not
was
at all.
having any game impact. So other than some random confessionals and stuff, I mean, the most visibility he had was just being the cheerleader for the Ruby team and trying to be the leader before Nelson came over. I mean, that was literally his claim to fame this season.
So
And
I think this is a really good observation by someone made this in Discord. I don't remember who exactly it was. I just kind of glanced at it. What everyone got mad at Cory for earlier in the season when he was in a perceived alliance with Jeremiah is literally what Josh did last night,
Mhm.
right?
That's a good
And
point.
sticking his neck out for Logan. And this just comes down to how everyone values them in the house, right? The strength of their alliances. And
Yep.
Josh is just so much more aligned than Cory and Nelson that he can make moves like that and not get the same type of pushback that someone like Cory gets for not being as well aligned.
Yeah.
I also think part of it though is just the dynamic of the team on, because like Tori's pretty willing to, that she's probably just happy she's not on the outside of the numbers and that she's fine going along with whatever the people that are in power want to do. Casey's on that team. Casey and Josh are always going to be somewhat working together. Emmanuel is definitely someone in the same boat as Tori, where if it's not him, it's fine. Devin was the one person who seemed to have some issue with the direction they were going. So I think if it was a house-wide situation, Josh might have received a bit more immediate blowback, but with the team he's on, it was pretty easy to get through.
We saw Devin have that conversation with Nelson and Cory after the vote happened, and Devin tried to suggest that he wanted Logan to go in. He did say in the team meeting with Emerald before nomination that that's who he wanted, but we didn't see him really fight for it that much, right? We didn't see him really stick his neck out. It didn't seem like he really cared that one way or another.
We don't know what they didn't show, but it also could have been something where you just saw the momentum of the team and then didn't push for it that much.
Yeah. In a team season, your best bet is if you're not happy with it, you just ride the wave of the momentum, and the momentum was Cory. One thing that I just started thinking about last night watching the episode was that Saphire team is like ranking who is where and why are they making certain decisions. And it all started to click in one scene. They talked about how they didn't want to put CT in because CT is basically tight with everybody. Okay.
Oh, you should put him in.
They should, but they're not going to. They're not. He's not going to see an elimination, Rob. You're out so much money.
We'll see what happens.
Rob, I
then
think
You're
you're
screwed.
toast.
You're
Like, how many-
toast.
We got time.
He's winning the season.
No, that's the thing. Because like, how many more eliminations do we have? Like for the
at
guys,
least two.
Maybe 2 men's, maybe.
I don't know. So we have 1, 2, 3.
We have
4
4
5,
episodes.
6,
till the
7.
Final, maybe.
So we have 7 guys. There's going to a purge is not part of this, right?
No, I don't think we're
A
getting
purge, purge null is any best that I have.
Why does it null it? Why does it null it?
Well, because that's part of what we agreed to.
I don't know if I agree with that though.
Well, I said if they're.
I do because it's a
That's not an
game-changing piece.
It's not an elimination, though. It's not an
But Devin,
elimination.
I specifically made that point in the bet. Like that's
I know.
part of the bet.
I'm saying I don't think that should have been part of the bet because the thing is that, like, to be like thrown into elimination, that suggests that it takes some momentum by people in the house to actually put him there.
Well, I
a purge
understand,
is just like something that happened. I know. I'm saying like I don't think that should have been part of the bet. Like that should be just like that should count as like him essentially making it. I think.
Yeah.
Well, I understand. I didn't want that to happen, so I made that part of the bet.
I know. I'm saying that was a good move by you. By Pat, that's a dumb move. Like I don't think it should be part of it.
I mean, like you could say whatever, but he's already getting decent enough odds.
I was about to say he's getting good odds. So anyway, to continue the point, so they specifically said CT's tight with everybody. Devin's looking out for Kyle, so they're respecting that for the moment. I think Kyle is still the odd man out on the non-Saphire team now. Like maybe Nelson is at this point. Nelson's probably going to go in next time against somebody. But here's the thing with the Saphire team. There's the group of 4, and then there's the 2 expendable people in that alliance. Cory and Emmanuel are not in a great spot.
Team.
Yeah, in the Emerald team. They are not in a great spot because here's the thing. Casey and Nani are together. That isn't going to break. Casey's going to do what she can to protect Nani. Josh and Casey are together. And Devin has been working with Big Brother since the beginning of the season. Like Cory and Emmanuel, I have a feeling are the odd people out on that team. And when push comes to shove, if by some miracle they don't win the daily next week, then they're the ones at risk more than anybody because the rest of them all seem pretty tight.
Yeah, but I don't think alliances within your team help you that much.
It's pretty much like the relationships that you have with the team that wins the daily for that.
Uh-huh.
But that's what I mean, though. The way all these people are connected across these teams, like let's say for the sake of argument that in 2 weeks, okay, or even next week, we'll go next week. Let's say by some miracle, Nelson and Kyle and Amanda and let's say they somehow find a way to scrape up a win. They almost won this week, okay? Granted, that was Cory and Nelson and not Kyle, but go with me here. All right, let's say by some miracle they get in, all right? Kyle's probably not going to go after CT. They might go after Logan, but then Logan's going to look around and he's going to look at that other team, and I guarantee you they're going to say pick Emmanuel.
Yeah, because he's not picking Josh.
No, he's probably
That's
not
fair.
picking Devin.
I mean, it's going to be the same rookie story again.
Yes. Like that's where we're
Well,
headed.
that's if Ruby pulls out the miracle W when it's men's week, which
And all we've seen them do are structure missions that prioritizes the amount of people that have on your team in favor of that. You saw that again this week.
I don't know if it prioritizes it as much as they don't do anything to get rid of that advantage.
Mm-mm.
Which is essentially the same thing, right? Like if you have more people this week, that's more people that you can have untying knots and pulling it back to shore. It's a huge advantage.
Yeah, it is a huge advantage. Yeah.
I mean, their carabiner broke and they still had time to go down to the bottom of the water, pick it up and drag it in without help from the rope. Like that tells you a lot about how advantageous it is to have the numbers here.
They might as well not have even had the mission. There was no point to have the mission. They said it was close, but they didn't even give us the time. So we don't even know if it actually was close.
We don't know what the time was for the team of 6. We saw times for the other 2 teams very clearly at multiple points during the mission.
On the aftermath, everybody was talking about like it was close. I mean, it's hard to say how close it was because they weren't doing it like at the same time. So you're just kind of guessing at it. But I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't that disparate. I mean, the other thing though was you had Amanda doing her Titanic impression on the Ruby team. And the Saphire team had Amy getting all messed up in the mission too. So it's not even like the people they did have did a very good job.
Yeah, well, Amanda put out on Twitter that she threw the mission.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Because she made a deal with the Emerald team saying, I'll throw the mission if you won't throw Nelson in.
Why don't they put that shit in the show?
They should, but then it ruins the narrative a little bit because
I know
to me, you can't reveal that until after the mission. But then I think I also think production doesn't want it out there that people are making deals to throw missions unless it's like an outright thing like Gauntlet 3 where Danny's running laps. But this
people
was
do
pretty
that
close.
every single season.
It's so much more interesting because then Ruby still almost wins apparently in
Yeah.
spite of that, right? Like think
Yeah.
about how
Spite
much
of
more
her.
interesting that is.
And the
And
way
then-
they put it
and
on
then
the
hold on.
show.
Real quick, and then think about how much more interesting the fight is between Amanda and Nelson. That Amanda made this deal to essentially save Nelson, and he's bitching at her. Go ahead.
Well, another thing is too, maybe that was part of the reason why they did vote in Cory, because they felt they owed Amanda. And part of Amanda's deal was, hey, I know if you put in Cory, Cory's not picking Nelson, so put in Cory. The thing with that too is because the way they aired it on the show made it seem like she just got mad at Logan for yelling at her at the beginning of the mission. And that's why she was like stunting on and doing it at the Titanic. It wasn't actively participating. So I think that adds a couple other layers to everything else that happened. What did you guys think about everyone taking a shovel to Amanda when she got put on the Ruby team at the beginning of the episode?
I thought it was bizarre.
I did too. Like I don't get. I haven't looked at it specifically, but I would bet if you looked at Amanda's mission wins over the past couple of seasons, it's probably higher than Nelson and Cory's combined.
I mean, it was weird because it's pretty much like the producers went out of their way to discredit Amanda and tried to build that narrative around her performance in the mission instead of actually happened of her throwing the mission, right? That's pretty much what it came down to. They tried to make it seem like she just sucks when really it was she didn't want to win.
Do we think those confessionals from Cory and Nelson and Kyle and Logan, do we think those came after the mission, or do we think that
Definitely
they
possible.
Totally
That's
came
what I was
after the
thinking.
mission, I think.
Yeah. It was still odd. I'm curious as to why she's perceived as so much lesser of a competitor than like Nani is, which I just don't think we've seen at all.
I don't think that it's even a perception per se. I think it's producers saying, hey, say this about Amanda in the confessionals. I mean, I do.
Possible, for sure.
I mean, I'm beginning to think more and more that production, like if you even look at the quality of the confessionals and then you listen to some of the interviews and you read between the lines a little bit, the producers are getting more and more involved with feeding them lines to say about people.
It sucks.
In the confessionals, because you can tell like Nelson's bad mouthing Amanda, but Nelson, kind of knew she was going to throw it for him. Maybe he's pissed about that.
I don't know if he knew that. I don't think he'd be down for that actually if he didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
what I mean. That's why it's so much more entertaining if they show us that shit.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe they didn't have it on video, but it is odd.
I don't know.
And they're bad at their job. I'm sorry. You know what I mean?
This was one of the most cookie cutter episodes I've ever seen. It was just wash, rinse, repeat. We went to the mission. We saw like a pretty mediocre mission that was just whoever had the more people win. We had a club scene. We had a pretty basic nomination, except for Cory winning instead of Logan, and the elimination was okay. That's what we saw.
I found it relatively engaging. Maybe I'm just a little bit different. I thought the Cory meltdown and his feuding with the rest of the house, I thought that was interesting. I thought the fact that Josh's relationship was kind of able to swing things, I thought that was interesting. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of the Emerald team's deliberation. It's like, okay, why specifically is Cory the person going in? It's just because that's what Josh wants to do, which is what it comes across as. Is there anything else going on? So those things are stuff I would have to see a little bit more, but I found the episode pretty good.
I think more than anything, what I see watching this season is casting has to be better. Like has to be for this show to continue to be what it can be, because this season needed someone who was actually willing to rock the boat. It needed somebody like a Wes.
It seems like Amanda's doing that. They're just not airing.
She's trying, but it's not getting her anywhere because no one else is doing it. Like you have
I wouldn't say that. She just hasn't gone in yet, and she's still here.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's been playing really well. I think what it is,
Yeah.
I don't want to see one of these people on the next season. Not one person. Just not one of them. They need to shake it up. They need to get people in there who like don't have as close of relationships with each other and aren't afraid to step on each other's toes because they're essentially employees of Bunham and Murray, and they know that they're going to see each other again on the next subsequent seasons. I think that's a huge problem.
I think I think part of it's the format that allows them to do that, where they don't have to step on each other. So it's not like, look,
That's a problem too. Both of those are problems. Yeah.
I think that's almost more of the issue, because if we bring on people that aren't afraid to step on each other's toes, then there's no stepping on each other's. Like, then if these people don't have the relationships that's there,
Mhm.
Then we're not seeing relationships get burned down either. You know what I'm saying? If it's just
So-
all a bunch of random people.
So what if you take this exact same cast, the exact same missions for the most part, because you have to address some of these, and you just go with the team format from the beginning? How does that shake things up from the perspective of, hey, now instead of, voting, I mean, you're still going to have a rookie slaughter to start because they're just going to find
That's the
ways to
issue.
do it.
I think the issue is just you could put on too many rookies and you made it too easy to target them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't think it's
know.
much more complicated than that.
Like in my notes, and I don't know, I'd have to see exactly when I wrote it down. I think it was like right after the mission. It's literally typed out in bold. I'm so bored right now.
And see, I actually enjoyed the mission.
Yeah,
I
I
actually
did.
think this was a solid mission. The problem
There was at
is
least stuff happening in the mission.
when
People
they
were arguing.
explained it, I just went, all right, well, they're winning again because the 6 people have more hands, so they're gonna win. Like, it wasn't even a question.
Also, fuck the club scene. Like what? Like nothing comes out of that anymore. It seems like it's almost forced upon us because there's like some meta perception about it. It's that, oh, they're at the club scene, something entertaining is going to happen. It's like nothing fucking happens anymore.
I
Show
get
us
that, but I
everything
mean,
good.
we got Amanda. This episode we got Amanda and the Ruby team yelling at each other while the Emerald team's like posing for that weird shot there. I mean, we had Abby and Bettina screaming at each other the other episode. Things still happen there.
Things still happen there. It just, I think what it is, and this is probably, Devin, why you get annoyed by it, is it forces the entire cast to be all in the same room for a set amount of time. Because when they're, especially because it seems like they're not doing the nightly like parties because they're limiting the alcohol intake because of the issues at the beginning of the season and stuff. And they're just not doing the challenge thing where people all hang out at night. It appears like what happens is they get done with the challenge. Some people go work out, some people go eat, and some people take a nap, and the whole cast does not get together and interact as a whole. So the club scene is there to force all of the cast to be in the same room at the same time. And it just feels forced instead of letting things naturally occur.
It's just like none of this is like very engaging for me. Like, and I'll take like ownership on that. I'm not like trying to say that this is like how a bunch of people feel. It's just like, I don't know, like I'm not entertained by any of this.
I don't know what to do for you then, but
I know, like I've been thinking about it. Like it's just like I have not enjoyed the season. Like there have been, for me, I think there have been like 3 good episodes.
I think we went back and looked at it. Well, even you said there's been more.
No, there were like 3 or 4 good episodes. And depending on how you feel about this one, like maybe more.
Yeah. I would say that as a whole, I've enjoyed this season more than Double Agents because I felt like on Double Agents, there was no real standout. I mean, there were some good episodes, but I cannot, off the top of my head, give you a memorable episode that made me go, oh man, that one was great. It just kind of felt like it got in second gear and just stayed there the whole season. I
would 100% rather watch Battle of the Sexes than either of the last 2 seasons. Like not even a question.
I would disagree.
Like not a doubt.
Like I think
it'd be over faster. That's if
that's why.
That's true. We have Kel shutting down Josh in the second episode. We have the episode where Fessy puts in Amber B, and then Cory and Huey.
That was a good one.
Each other the Huey stuff was good. Yeah,
I think there's. I've liked this season. I think it's been fine.
Yeah.
Really?
I think I've liked it more. I liked it more than the last 2 pretty easily.
Yeah. See, I still like this one more than Double Agents, Devin.
Yeah.
But the problem is they had the potential for this season to be off the chains great. And the format of you can pick any 2 people to go in just led to uninteresting rookie slaughter eliminations. And it's interesting, Devin, too, because like usually you're the guy that's like, I want to see this team just run up the score and beat up everybody.
Yeah, that's all what you want.
But I can understand why this season is frustrating is because it doesn't feel legit because it almost felt like the game was rigged from the start for the vets, the way they did the format.
It's just that like, I like to see that when like some of the players are engaging, right? And they're good characters. I'm not really entertained by Devin, Josh, Casey.
This is not
and Cory. Like
this is not the vets on Gauntlet 3 or the champions on the Ruins entertainment. Like this is just like Oh, okay, cool. We're going. We're still going.
Do you guys think there's any chance that so right now we're at let's see, it's four. It's what? How many people are left in the house right now? We've got
4,
three
4, and 6.
Yeah, it's 14 left in the house right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any chance you think we see us like they would switch to a 2-team format or something like that in this next
No.
episode or two?
This
isn't
thing's
Survivor.
going to 3 teams all the way. This is where it's headed.
I
been
can't. I
saying
can't. I
And
still can't.
I'm
see
gonna
them winning.
win money on it because y'all told
That's
me I
just
was
not
crazy.
going to
I don't-
happen.
It's not going to stay teams. I don't.
It's not
I
gonna
just don't-
happen.
It's just
The
don't think-
point of the bet, which I made, was they will stay teams until the final. If they start the final as teams, I win. I
They're
think
not doing
that
that.
in the final they will split it up at some point, but they will start the final as 3 teams. if
I
there
think
are
we-
still 3 teams.
I think we could even see a situation like they did on Invasion, where the underdogs were still under the impression they were going to run the finalist teams when they showed up there, and then they show up and TJ's like, "All right, change back into your original outfits. You guys are all running as individuals with mixed pairs." I think we could be heading towards that situation too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of shakeup though in the next couple episodes before the final.
I think next week is going to be chalk. Definitely for sure.
I don't know.
So
It
we have-
depends on
But
the
what
mission.
does that mean for the woman? Who's going in?
Not necessarily with who will go in, but for the format of it, right? Like it'll be a team's
Okay.
mission.
Mhm.
The winning team will nominate
Big
someone
T.
from the teams that didn't. Yeah, it's going to be Big T or Emmy, one of the two.
I could see Amanda going in.
Mm-mm.
Why? Because she's probably going to make a deal with Emerald again.
I mean,
to throw the mission,
Yeah. Emerald is for whatever reason thinking that they're a super team and that they're going to be unbeatable.
But they've won every mission so far.
Well, a mission is different from a final. And this is my point with the final. They're set up to lose that final right now.
definitely.
I mean, the way they're editing it, the way they're performing, their attitude, like and CT in his defense on the vote in was perfect. He's like, you know what? I'm not messing with y'all. Give me all the misfits and I'll run the misfit final.
They should have
Because
put him in there.
Let's talk about this. This was completely idiotic, right? We had all these people talking
Yeah, we didn't
about
even
how
bring
they
this
weren't
up
gonna. They were like strong with their team. They didn't want to switch teams. They were Ruby till the end.
The
They
only
were
person who
Sapphire till
didn't
the
say
end.
that was Corey.
Corey was like,
Wow.
I'm going to get on your team and I'm going to
He
sabotage
was the one who
your
got put
plan.
in.
That's who you want. The people that say, I want to stay on my team. I don't want to be part of Emerald. Those are the people that you want to put in because you don't want people coming on to Emerald. It makes no sense.
Their whole point has been we need to do everything we possibly can to make sure Emerald stays, which I don't think is a good mantra, first
It's
of
a
all.
terrible idea.
But then secondly, yeah, like everyone's saying, all right, CT's like, all right, I'm staying with Saphire. Logan says, I'm going to hold the Ruby line. They say all these things. Corey's the only person who's like, I'm going to switch over. And then he's the one they put in.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. You know what's interesting?
Maybe it just wasn't
though?
a factor for them, really.
What's also interesting to me on this is Logan's decision to swap Kyle out and be with CT. That was an interesting choice because I think it was probably for where they are in the game right now, the correct choice if you're not going to go to Emerald, which you should. But if you're not, it's interesting to swap Kyle out because I understand the point. You're not probably going to win if Big T is on your team. But I'm also thinking about this from Logan's perspective of, well, I would like to win a mission. So if I want to win a mission, we're not going to win a mission if Big T is on our team.
I just think he has to go to Emerald. I don't see an argument for him not doing that.
I mean, I'm with you unless you just don't want to piss off the people in power. But my point.
But
would
then you're
be,
with them. What are they going to do?
Well, that's my thing is like, what are you going to do? Like, what are they
going to throw
do?
a mission so they can put Logan in elimination and one of them possibly goes in? I don't see.
All you have to do is say, I'm taking Emmanuel's spot on Emerald.
Yeah.
And everything's fine. No
Emmanuel
one on that team really
Emmanuel-
cares if he's there or not.
Seriously. I mean, let's see how you look in red. Go over to Ruby and figure out what happens. How much that team now? So we've got Kyle, Nelson, Big T, and Amanda. What are they going to be up to?
If you get rid of Big T, that's actually a pretty good team.
I mean, in what context?
For a final, that's a pretty good team.
I mean, I think Sapphire's set up pretty good for a final too.
Yeah, they're getting better every week.
Emmy's who knows how Emmy will do, but then
I could see her having a real meltdown in the final.
Emmy is just
If
going to
she's
do
able
what
to get
Uncle
there,
CT
Emmy.
tells her to do. That's the long and the
And
short
she didn't
of
do a
that.
very good job of that this week, though.
Yeah, I don't know. She could definitely. I can see her-
Honestly, I think Uncle CT is leading Emmy on to protect Ashley because he will tell her like, "Hey, since you're the rookie, you need
Got to
to
go in for a
you got to
fourth
go
time.
in, you got to take care of this. You're strong. You're this." He's going to gaslight her to protect Ashley.
I mean, so let's break this down for what could potentially happen for next week. Let's assume Emerald wins, right? Because
I think that's a pretty
Future-
safe assumption.
the producers again will set up a mission where it by far favors having more people. Emerald wins. Who does Emerald vote in?
Big
I
T.
think there's a decent chance they put in Amanda.
I think it's Big
I
T.
don't think so. It's going to be Big T or it's going to be Emmy. One of the two. They just have. It seems like the relationships that they have with Amanda are too strong, right? And they get too much of an advantage of her throwing missions and helping them out and not going in.
Well, we don't know if that's going to continue to happen now that Cory's gone.
Why would
It'll
why,
still
why,
happen.
why wouldn't why,
Well,
why wouldn't they want someone on another team throwing missions for them?
Well, I'm saying I don't see why is she still throwing missions at this point.
Because next week there's actually
She
a chance
could
for her
go
to go in, right? And if they say throw the mission, you're not going in. They're like done. Deal. Why not do that?
We'll see what happens. Because for her best chance of safety right now is just to actually win, which I know with Ruby is hard to do. But there's still a very good chance
No.
anybody that they pick is going to
No,
pick
they're not
Amanda
gonna
McGann.
I'm with
You're not
Devin.
an idiot.
Like Amanda's best move is to go back and say, I'll throw it
Yeah.
again if you don't vote me in, because
Well,
then
how-
it's Big T versus Emmy, and her team gets better the moment Big T's off of it.
Well, but how do we know that Emmy or Big T isn't going to pick Amanda to go in?
It's possible for
But
sure.
you have to roll that dice.
But
Otherwise,
that's it's a better chance than actually trying to see if Ruby's gonna win.
She could also say she's going to throw it and then like kind of try to help Ruby. To
But
win,
even
and if they
let's
don't
put
win,
it this
then
way
say,
though, too. Like even if she gets thrown in, would you rather face Emmy or Big T at this point? And the answer is you want to face Big T. So
Well, then
if
what-
you can get Big T thrown in, you've got a 50-50 chance of, okay, Emmy's going in or I'm going in. And if I'm going in, I feel better taking on Big T than Emmy.
Yeah, I think so. Part of why I say that is just we know Tori and Amanda do not get along. That's been pretty well documented from both after the show and somewhat on the show. I think Nani is the one person in the house who has
They do have a good
consistently
relationship.
with Amanda. You think Nani and Amanda?
Yeah, they showed it preseason before the game. I know we haven't gotten much like during the actual episodes, but that was like one of the driving narratives at the start. It was like Ashley, Amanda, Nani, and maybe someone else out on the canopy talking about how like this is their game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing is though, so since we've had that point, Nani did remember when Ashley and Priscilla went in against each other as soon as we switched to teams? Nani was the only person who was like, we shouldn't be rooting for Ashley in this. We should want to keep working on the voting, and we also don't want to keep players who could potentially be good in a final around. So I think there could be a bit more of a killer instinct from her as things
So
go along.
Wouldn't Nani want to keep Amanda around if everyone perceives her to be really weak then?
I mean, maybe I don't know. We haven't heard that from Nani specifically if she perceives Amanda to be that weak.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I think it's going to be pretty chalk next week. I think it's going to be, yeah, I don't, dude, it's like, it's just the way this is lining up. Like, I think Amanda, if she's smart, she's going to throw this next mission again. And from what we've seen, she is smart, right? So I think that's probably what's going to happen. She's going to throw the mission. They're going to throw in one of Emmy or Big T. And then one of them is going to pick Amanda or Emmy.
Yeah.
We think there's, I mean, is there any chance, like if they just don't have a mission that's set up for numbers to be that big of an advantage, I think Saphire could pull out a win.
And that's the thing. Even if Saphire pulls it out, they're going to throw in Big T because it's the safest thing politically to do. And that's the way CT plays. So he's going to throw Big T in, and then she probably calls out. I mean, who do you call out if you're Big T at that point? Your choices are Amanda, Nani, Casey, and Tori.
Probably Amanda
Good
or
luck.
Nani.
I don't know that she would
Yeah.
call out Amanda. I think she probably calls out Nani.
Yeah, maybe so. I think I mean, look, if they just don't have a mission where it's way in their favors to have numbers, like they can have something where it's not super advantageous to have more people.
Yeah.
We've seen plenty of missions before that it's actually been an advantage to have less people.
Yeah,
We haven't seen an awareness on their part this season that that's like an issue.
I don't think they care.
They've never cared about one team snowballing the other team. They just don't.
Mm-mm.
But this is a different group of people, right? Well, I mean, it's some of the same people that were on War of the Worlds too, and they really are on War of the Worlds too.
No, I mean the thing is, if War of the Worlds 2, think about it, if Jordan and Tori don't switch over, there's 3 people on the UK team by the end of it, like maximum.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah. I don't know what the fucking goes through their head. I don't know. Someone in Discord was talking about this earlier week. They were giving some essentially like cliff notes of a conversation that one of the producers had on Tori and Anissa's show, and it was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. They have had some interesting people on.
They made it seem like it was pretty transparent that the people that get cast on the show are the people that they like, right? And that was one indication that they gave. They also gave another indication that they don't necessarily cast who they think are the best people to be on the show. They come up with a theme, and then based off of that theme, they then cast people, which is a terrible idea. That's an awful way to do it.
Especially when these who doesn't fit Spies, Eyes, and Allies as a theme? What does that even mean?
That doesn't mean anything.
Oh, we can't. All right, guys. We don't think Theo, he hasn't been that like sneaky lately. He's been very like upfront with what he's up to. We don't think he fits Spies, Eyes, and Allies. He can't go.
I don't know. There were some other interesting points that
I did also
one made.
I also love Nelson saying, I don't really have any allies on my team anymore. I just have spies and liars on my team. It's like, man, he's really just trying to shoehorn this theme in any way he can get it.
He's trying.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, it's like doesn't produce good content either. Like there were multiple times this episode where he did that.
Well, it's gotta be I think it's one of those things where, like, you know how on Survivor, especially the first 2 episodes, people always say, oh, as a brain or as whatever, and you can clearly tell the producer asked them, how do you feel as a brain about X? It seems like we're getting a lot of that this season.
And I mean, thank God Survivor doesn't even do that anymore. Like, they don't even have a theme now, which honestly isn't that bad. Like, I haven't noticed it at all. They don't feel they don't waste that extra time that you're talking about trying to shoehorn the theme in that no one even cares about to begin with.
And by the way, for those of you listening to this, if you haven't seen last night's Survivor episode, you should watch it.
Don't spoil. I'm not
saying anything other than that. Just watch last night's Survivor. It's
funny.
Awesome.
Because remember I don't know if we complained, but it was a thing for War of the Worlds 2 and Total Madness that they ended up changing the name of this season in post-production because for whatever reason they just did. I actually think that might have been, even if I didn't like those seasons, that might have actually been a benefit because then they can't shoehorn in the theme constantly because they don't have a coherent one.
Yeah, play up to it.
The battle for independence became Total Madness.
And like we've seen, like with War of the Worlds 1 and War of the Worlds 2, there was some type of theme there, but it wasn't like it was ham-fisted in at every single point. Like the Vendettas or Spies as an Allies now. They weren't doing that.
Two more things, and we need to head into power rankings because of our time. First of all, I called it. Next week is a Top Gun 2 tie-in mission. TJ specifically at the end of the episode said, we'll see you in the danger zone at the end of the episode. I'm like, there's your clue that we're getting the Top Gun 2 tie-in for this.
That was a really good take by you, Trace, because I didn't even think about that when we saw them in the pilot gear until you brought it up. And like as soon as you said, I'm like, that makes complete sense. Like, that's definitely what they're doing.
So who would you rather have host next episode? Tom Cruise or TJ Lavin?
Why can't they both
see what Tom Cruise is up to?
Huh?
I'll be curious to see how Tom Cruise would approach it.
Let's put it this way. They can't afford him, so you'd probably have Val Kilmer there with his voice box. Let's be real.
I'd be fine with Val Kilmer hosting an episode. Is Val Kilmer going to be in Top Gun 2?
Yes.
Oh, he is.
Sure.
Yes, he's confirmed that he filmed several scenes for the movie.
When was the last time you watched Top Gun?
I watched it within the last couple years.
Yeah.
What was your take?
It was good.
Still
great. I don't know if I had ever seen it from beginning to end in one sitting. I think growing up, it was and Trace can confirm.
It was on cable every day.
All the time it was on. And
TBS
I don't think I ever made a point to sit down and watch it from start to finish when I was a kid. But like I had seen every scene, right? And so a couple of years ago, within the last couple of years, I sat down and watched it, and I didn't think it was bad. Some of the plane footage you can just fast forward through just because whatever, but I didn't think it was bad.
My thing is I feel like if it didn't have the mystique of being Top Gun, I don't think people would think it was any good.
Watch it.
I know I have watched it. I know.
Okay.
I think it's a generational thing there, Rob. I really do. That's one of those movies that like it was the first of its kind. You know, there was never a movie that had that type of, I mean, they'd had war movies before. They had never had high octane action movies with live dogfight type stuff in it. And so between that, the rise of Tom Cruise as the movie star of the 80s and 90s was in effect at that point. Like Top Gun really launched his career. Like Cocktail was kind of his, you know, rise to stardom. Top Gun cemented it. And so it just has like this iconic place for people that were probably born before 1990.
I think
Cocktail is one of those movies that when you explain it to someone now, what it's about, they're like, what? Just like Roadhouse, right? It's the same thing. You tell them the basic premise of the movie.
They don't even know what a Roadhouse is anymore.
They can't believe that
nobody puts baby in the corner.
90 minutes was dedicated
to bouncers.
I mean,
Roadhouse is incredible.
It's like, incredible.
It's so good.
It's up there with the Sylvester Stallone movie Over the Top, where he's a down on his luck trucker trying to get custody of his kid again, and he has to win an arm wrestling championship in Las Vegas to get his kid back. Like, it's incredible.
I'd like to see a movie about an up on his luck trucker. Like, well, what's like the top end of that profession like?
Pretty damn good, actually. You watch Ice Road Truckers,
you can make a lot of money.
Make a lot of money.
What was your other take here, Trace? Before?
Oh yeah, the other take was I was so convinced last season when we got to a certain point that CT was winning. They are telegraphing it. Like, it's not even him and Emmy are going to walk away with money the way that they are editing this show. Like, it is so telegraphed at this point.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Power rankings. Let's do it. Trace, kick us off.
All right. You have to go as the team stand now. I don't think Logan's going to make the final at this point. I think he's going to go in twice. I think you're going to see, you have to go CT Kyle Nelson for the men.
Kyle Nelson.
Yep. And then for the women, sadly, you have to go Smashley, Emmy, Amanda.
Amanda's still number 3.
I mean, there's a chance she's going to go into elimination, and depending on the dynamics of the team, she might pick to go with CT over the other team.
I just can't have her ranked at all based off of the Aftermath show from last week. Like, I just can't rank her.
Okay. Fair enough. Overall, CT, Smashley, Emmy. I hate it. But
Rob?
That's where we're heading.
Nelson, Devin, Emmanuel for the men. For the women, Tori, Casey, Nani. Then overall, Nelson, Tori. I'll go Devin, number 3.
Say your overall again.
Nelson, Tori, Devin.
Why do you think Nelson? Either like he's in a terrible spot. Like terrible. Yeah. So either you're looking at spoilers or
I am not looking at anything.
Show because like he is in an absolutely awful position. Like terrible.
Well, why do you think his position
is so bad?
Zero
allies.
He has no
Zero.
He has no allies. He never wins. He has no allies. He's on the worst team and he never wins missions. How the fuck can he be in a good spot?
I don't think he has no allies. I think he has
Amanda.
He's the only ally he continually alienates. He's playing terrible. So, like, on top of all of those things that are made, he's a bad player.
We'll see what happens. I think that he still has enough people who are fine with him sticking around. We'll see if there's some killer instinct developed at some point, or maybe not. Maybe they just let TT coast to the end, unfortunately.
Oh, he is. He's in neutral, man.
I still think everything's been built around him so far this season.
Who?
Nelson.
How? Explain this to me.
And whenever they're like in the previews, when they're in the midseason trailers, it's all built around Nelson.
No. Don't give me anything in trailers. Like, what's happening on the show?
Well, okay, fine. Even on the show, he's been a pretty strong focal point of the story so far. We see this episode. This episode, he's definitely like with Cory going home. They're gonna have him be a significant part of that anyway. So maybe this episode isn't as good of an example. But we've seen in previous episodes, he hasn't had many episodes where he hasn't been involved at all.
I think
there were those episodes early in the season where he was pretty much invisible. Remember where he had one? We talked about this at the time. He had one confessional over like a couple episodes span.
No,
he did.
Yeah.
I've been keeping track of him. He has not been that loud.
I think the reason that you're seeing Nelson's prominence in the trailers is A, he's always going to say yes. And two, Bunim and Murray has to start promoting people that aren't CT Bananas West, because especially in CT and Bananas case, there ain't that many seasons left. I mean, CT's 40. Okay. Like he could probably hang on as long as he wants to. But at the same time, we just got news that he's going to be starring in a movie with Tom Berenger. He also has a reality show about flipping houses under development. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff starting to happen outside the show, just like Bananas does. So, they have to build new faces of the franchise. And for whatever reason, they're putting it under Nelson, probably because he's always going to say yes. And so you build the show around people that will always say yes.
All right. I don't know. I guess I'll go CT. Kyle, Nelson. For the women, I'll go Tori, Casey, Nani. And then overall, I'll go Tori, Casey, CT. All right. Before we leave, because I feel like I definitely did this episode, are there any things that we haven't covered that we should absolutely cover before the end of this? It happened in the episode.
I don't think so. We covered the elimination. We covered the mission. We covered the fallout choices. I mean, other than the funny stuff with Kyle, because Kyle had a couple.
We didn't talk about them slapping the donuts out of Big T's hand. I was very offended by that.
Big T was eating a breakfast of donuts and watermelon. Breakfast of Champions.
I mean, that's what if you're on Survivor, that's like a top end breakfast. I took very big issue with them making fun of her and then slapping the donuts out of her hand. I was very offended for her.
It's interesting that they chose to show it too, right?
I mean, because it's like 8 seconds long. It doesn't take long to hear that.
I think it's just them planting the seeds that she's going in next week, because she's not quote unquote training. She's not quote unquote training or eating the right things. And so they're going to show that. And it's an easy out for next week.
Rob, are you ready for the narrative next week about how Big T is going to go in because no one wants to run a final with her? Are you ready?
She's going to get the Anissa episode.
It's happening. We also had the funny moment at the start of the episode where Kyle talks with Logan about Amanda's strengths.
She's annoying. She's toxic, but she's not bad at puzzles.
Yeah. She's probably like, if they do, I guess CT is the ringleader for puzzles, but she's number 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
Her and Ashley.
It's Ashley, Amanda, CT.
Yeah.
We also got the moment with CT.
Oh, Devin's good too.
Yeah.
We got the moment with CT and Emmanuel at the start of the episode where they talked about their tradition in Romania.
Riding the dead pig.
Riding the dead pig. That was crazy.
Super bizarre.
And then they flash up a picture of his childhood of him actually sitting on the pig.
Yeah. And then he starts slapping meat right before we catch him in the shower with Tori.
Yeah. Oh, we forgot about that. Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was the next one that I was going to bring up. The Emmanuel and Tori hookup scene, which I don't like. What do you want to say? I mean,
they've been getting like 2 minutes of them doing stuff every episode, pretty much.
And then we get the scene, which pretty much foreshadowed the whole episode, of Cory and Nelson talking about how people are preparing for war. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's not a good sign when it's just the two of you sitting there, and it's pretty much you two talking about how that's the alliance, right?
Well, they even said it. Cory even said it directly, like the only person they have right now is Nelson, so that's not great.
That's about it.
Yeah. There we go.
At least All Stars starts next week. We have
All
that.
Star starts on
Oh,
Thursday
man, we're
night,
gonna
my
be
friend.
busy.
Thursday morning, my friend.
If I'm gonna be so disappointed if week one next or episode one next week is a semi-mission with each person competing on their own and an elimination with fire just going on around them. I'm gonna be so disappointed.
Get ready.
There's like at least a 30% chance
There's at least a
Yeah.
30% chance. Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I love more about All Stars is I just like these personalities and characters better. And, just the trailer alone where they're all having the first party at night and they're all like, yeah, this is going to be the best challenge ever. Woo. And if you look on the far right of the screen, Katie's just like whatever, smoking a cigarette on the side. Just these people are gold in terms of like, I can deal with a shitty mission if the cast is really entertaining, and this cast is entertaining.
Yeah.
So good
All right.
times.
Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you on Sunday. If you're a patron, if you're not a patron, become a patron at the Challenge Chronicle or at patreon.com/Challenge Chronicles, and you can get a bonus episode per week. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.